Okay, so today it's another unboxing of one of the channel favorites so far, another Asvine pen. Today it'll be the J16. Let's take a look. Okay, so here we are with yet another Asvine. As I mentioned in the intro, this is the J16, same box as we've seen before, and the same problem of, for me, just trying to make sure everything was in there before I did the video. The torn box. Okay, so we got the standard Asvine case. Now in this one, it actually comes with one of their little tools that can be useful on the vac fillers. This one is a piston. So this is a multi-purpose tool that Asvine includes with some of their pens, not all of them. We've got the basic instruction manual that covers all of their pens. Now this is different because this is a new part of the packaging that actually has a little note on it about don't clean your pens with alcohol for vac fillers, screw the blind cap all the way when you're writing. Piston fillers, when the piston doesn't move, it means it's reached the end, so don't keep twisting it because that can break it. So just basic, how-to that covers multiple pins. So throw that back in there. And as I mentioned in the V126 video, these cases are actually handy. You can fit test ink sample cylinders in there if you need a way to transport them. So that's just one thing, I found out one day when I needed to take some. So handy little bit to know. So let's get the box over here to the side. So we've got it in the plastic. So here we have the basic pen, and this is the brushed titanium version. Now, this is a piston filler, but one of the most unique things is this is the first Asvine, I believe, that uses Jowo number 6 nib units. So before I ever put this in ink or take it out, what you can do is you can actually unscrew this nib unit. And I have this out. This is an Esterbrook double broad nib unit that Esterbrook sent me to for my Raven that I've not done a video on, but this should, to my understanding, be able to go in here and screw in unless they've changed the... Okay, so this is, did not test this on beforehand, obviously, but this nib unit itself is different. So while I believe you can pull the nibs, and let's see if we can test this. You can pull the nib and feed. And that is in there, and I might need to screw it in to give it a little better grip. So you can pull the nib. Now let's look at the feeds here. This is the Asvine feed on the left and the Jowo from the Esterbrook on the right. So the feeds are different, but if what we are being told is correct, you can put the Jowo nib onto that feed, get it lined up there, and then, now I didn't look to see if this, and I'll do some extra filming of this as well with the macro so you can see a little bit better some of this, and I'll put it over the top. But in one of these nib units, if you're not familiar, there's actually a little inset of which side the nib goes on and which side the feed goes on. So you push it all the way in until it's in. So now I have a double broad Esterbrook Jowo number 6 on my brand new Asvine J16. So this is nice because if you have existing nibs, or if you had custom nibs, or you get one ground from a nib grinder, I know Kirk Spear sells some on his website and some of the other nib grinders, you can order individually ground Jowo number 6, which is one of the more common nibs you're going to find. You could easily buy this nice titanium body pen, put that in there, ink it up, and be ready to write with a custom grind. So because of the availability of Jowo number 6 nibs, this is a nice option to be able to have a universal body that you can just pop out the feed, put that in, and be able to use a different nib. So for now, I'm going to take that back out and put the nib that came on it, which is an extra fine, because that's what I write with. And then line that up. Get that situated in there. And make sure that's seated all the way in. So now I'll go in and get this filled up and do a little bit of a writing sample, but I did want to show that this does give the option, and it is, this is something to note, that it does not use the standard Jowo feed. It looks like it's a different feed, but the nib itself will fit. So you can't just screw in a Jowo nib unit completely. You do have to pull the nib from the feed and use that other feed, it looks like, in order for that to work. Now this, let me see if I can get this. You can see there, and once again, I'll probably overlay a shot with the macro. You can see how there's a little indent on the top where the nib slides in. So when you put the nib back into a unit, if you've never pulled a nib and feed before, you know which direction it goes. So it's got a little bit of a key in the nib unit itself, so when you're putting the nib back in. So let me get this cleared away and grab some ink, and we'll get this filled and do a little bit of writing. Okay, so the ink I'm going to fill this with is one of the newer Iroshizuku's, the Cyan Gyo, which is kind of a black cherry color. I haven't used this in a pen myself yet. My wife has it in one of her pens and liked the color. So for a piston filler, if you're not familiar, just to kind of give a quick overview because I have to do it anyway, you unscrew that, and it doesn't unscrew a ton. And there's actually a little bit of an ink window here where you can see, if you look in there very carefully, the top of the piston. So all you do is drop it into the ink, screw it down, and now I normally get a little bit of ink in there and then screw it back just to be sure I get a nice full fill. Screw that until it's tight. I normally wipe the nib off on the bottle a little bit, and then just have a towel handy to wipe off any ink on the section and the top of the nib, just so that you're not getting ink on your fingers. And I don't think this would stain on this titanium, but it could. With the pen being new, I don't really know. But I think that's going to be decent enough for now. Now that is leaving a little bit of a ring on there that I don't have any water handy, so I might step away and grab some water and wipe that off and then be right back. Okay, and a little bit of water, as you can see, did get that off the section. So this is once again, trying to keep consistency in some of these videos. So if you're watching, you can see the Nimacine, or Marimon Nimacine A5. So I normally keep at my desk. So this is the Asvine J16. I assume J stands for Jowo. Jowo. This is in an extra fine. This is a Iroshizuku. Cyan Gyo. And, this is a standard Jowo nib that feels, familiar. The pen is comfortable to write with. As you can see, it sits in the hand, and I'm not posting this one. It does post okay. It's kind of loose on posting, so this looks like would be meant to write without it posted. And with it being titanium, it does have a little bit of weight to it. Not heavy, but a little bit of weight, if that makes sense. And then in terms of size, here is the Asvine V126. Just to kind of show you can see the nib is slightly smaller than the Jowo, and it's a slightly shorter pen. Make sure I've got that lined up well. So, very similar size, a little bit more diameter on the J16, so kind of a standard pin shape, size, presentation, but I do like the look of this brushed titanium. I have to admit, at some point I'm going to do a video. I have a weakness for titanium. A few of my pocket knives are titanium. My watch I wear a lot of the time is titanium. My wedding ring is titanium, so I've got a weakness for that. But let's just do a basic writing here. Okay, so, just saying, as you can see in the writing there, it's a great improvement to be able to use the Jowo nibs. That really expands the flexibility. Asvine's done that already with some of their other pins. Like, I actually happen to have one sitting here, so I'll show it on the V200. This is with the Bach nib. So now they have, from Asvine in their company arsenal, their own nibs where you can use Bach nibs and Jowo nibs. So they've kind of covered the gambit and the basis, and that really caters to the fountain pen community really well, because you can use standard known nibs or get custom designed. A lot of nib sellers and makers will do custom etched nibs where you can get different designs and whatnot ground in there. The nib that this comes with is just a plain, no scroll work number 6. And it does have the size, and when I get the macro, I'll do a close-up, show a close-up here as well of how it shows the nib size on the side of the nib, right where it comes out of the top of the nib unit. But overall, a nice pen. I look forward to putting this to use. I think this is going to be, and I have the video that, depending on when this comes out and when I think this is going to be the pen I'm going to leave in the Lockbee notebook. Since I'm not going to post it, I can just unscrew it, leave the cap in the elastic so that it doesn't risk pulling the strings there. And I think this is going to be my carry around setup for a while, and just to see how I like that. So if you haven't seen that video, be sure and check that out on the channel as well. But other than that, a good way to end and a nice entry from Asvine. I did also want to mention there is a polished version of this as well. I liked the look of the pictures I'd seen of the brushed titanium, so there is a polished version as well. So the Asvine J16. Okay, so that wraps up the look at the Asvine J16 in brushed titanium. So I'm curious, what other Asvine pins do you own? Are you excited that this one gives you the option to use a Jowo number 6 nib on it? Drop a comment and let me know what your thoughts are. I'm excited because this opens up the nib selection and variety to use a kind of not a beater pin, but a pin that I'm not as concerned with, getting scratched up or something like that. That's why I'm going to use this on the side of my Lockbee for the time being. It's kind of a rough and tumble. It is titanium, but I can use any custom ground Jowo number 6 nibs that I might come across. So that's a pretty appealing point to me. If you're new, consider subscribing so you can see videos like this as they're released. And thanks for watching.